Happy New Year, everybody. If we haven't given you that wish yet, we have a full house this evening, and we've moved over to the commission chambers, and we're glad to see such a good turnout. And I'll have to say we're very proud to have this many people that's interested in their Constitution and their constitutional rights, and we're so glad that you are here. And we're glad that you are here. Just a reminder that you are on television here in Rutherford County tonight, so we remind everybody to be sure and smile every now and then, because you will be seen. We'll begin our meeting with the ask for the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Mr. Vice Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I found the minutes of the last meeting to be in order and make a motion they be approved.
We have a motion of their approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The first item we have tonight is actually item 2, deals with the Second Amendment sanctuary discussion. I'm going to yield the chairmanship to our Vice Chairman due to the fact that I'll be presenting that. So, Mr. Vice Chairman, I will yield the chairmanship to you.
Thank you, Chairman. The second item is a resolution of the Rutherford County Commission reaffirming its support of the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I'd like to be presenting that resolution this evening to the committee. This is a resolution that has received a lot of attention, especially here in Rutherford County. Not only in Rutherford County, it's received a lot of attention all over the state of Tennessee. If you'd like to wonder why I am presenting this, why I have come interested in this, it began not just all of a sudden. It began, I say, several months ago, as I've seen what has happened across our country, what I've seen happen within the state, what I've seen as far as people have looked at our Constitution and what they have tried to attempt to do to it. And also the way that people have looked at the rights of individuals within our country and what we've seen. I had mentioned to individuals in December that I would possibly be presenting this resolution, and I've had nothing but support. I've had some individuals say, why would you want to do that? And I said, due to the fact that I support our Constitution, not only of the United States, but of the state of Tennessee. Because I can remember twice that I stood right here in front of this podium and raised my hand saying that I would uphold the Constitutions. And I think it's important that we do that and that we reaffirm that as commissioners, as really as individuals, as citizens of the state of Tennessee and of the United States of America. Something that really drove it home as far as what this amendment does within this county happened to me just recently. Where I live on a farm west of here, and that farm was an original Revolutionary War land grant. And I'd heard that all my life as it's passed down through the family. And just recently I started doing a study on that farm. I have found the original deed. I found the survey that dated back to 1792, September the 9th, 1792. I found the individual that actually did the survey. His name was Thomas Hickman. He was from the state of North Carolina. He and his party of individuals, of hunters and those who carried the chains, came to this area and surveyed 2,000 acres for William Hill, who was a Revolutionary War line soldier, in which the state of North Carolina wanted to recognize him, as well as other soldiers that participated fighting for our rights against the British. He surveyed that land, and that land became a part of Rutherford County in later years. What drove home the importance of this Constitution was on Christmas night, when I just had my family there at the farm. Having 5 grandchildren for Christmas and helping cook the meal and doing all that, I became tired that night after they all left. After I saw the taillights leave the driveway, I fell asleep, and at 11 o'clock I woke up and I noticed there was some light still on outside. And I walked to the front door and opened the front door, and I forgot the burglar alarm was already on. shut the door real quick, walked to the pad, turned it off, and I get a call from the security system individuals real fast, telling me, wanting to know what's wrong. I said, nothing at all. He said, just a stupid old man opened the door when he shouldn't have. I walked to the front porch, turned off those lights. But on that farm, I looked out and I noticed nobody was coming to my aid. Nobody had turned on their lights to see what was wrong. And I stood there on that porch on that quite cold December night, and over to my right, I could only hear coyotes. Over to my left, I could hear a fox barking. I got thinking, I said, you know, I'm pretty much here like Thomas Hickman was back in 1792. But Thomas Hickman had come to this area surveying 9 months after the Second Amendment had been ratified in December of 1791. And here I was 200 years later with the same rights that he had to keep that 357 beside the door when I walked out that night to turn off those lights. And I think as an individual of Rutherford County, as an individual of the state of Tennessee, as an individual of the United States of America, I have the right to protect my home, my family, and my property. And I think the people, and the citizens have that right. And what we're doing here tonight is this resolution is a reaffirming of that right and reaffirming the Constitution of Tennessee and of the United States. So, Mr. Chairman, I wish to read that resolution we wish to put in action tonight. It's a resolution of the Rutherford County Commission reaffirming its support of the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. Whereas on October the 25th, 1803, the Tennessee legislature authorized the county of Rutherford to become the 24th county to establish in Tennessee with a county government to operate under the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the great state of Tennessee. And whereas in their wisdom, our founders, when creating those documents, unanimously recommended the Constitution that maintain inalienable right to keep and bear arms and have their future upheld by further decisions of the U.S. Supreme Court. And whereas the right as originally written and understood to keep and bear arms for self-defense, personal safety, protection of one's family, and defense of one's community and county. And whereas the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, ratified on December the 15th, 1791, as part of the Bill of Rights, so states, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And whereas it is the desire of the Rutherford County Commission to declare its reaffirmation and support of the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution and to protect the ineligible right to keep and bear arms as it relates to the citizens of our county. And whereas each county commissioner upon election took an oath to support and defend the United States Constitution and the state of Tennessee Constitution, and as well as the law which are not deemed unconstitutional by a court of competitive jurisdiction. And whereas Rutherford County has been blessed by the state legislature and governors that have continually upheld the Second Amendment, protecting our law-abiding citizens' inalienable rights to keep and bear arms, as a county commission, we still ask for their continued support and efforts to protecting those rights. And whereas, as recorded in our county and counties within our state, the term sanctuary county should not be considered to be confirmed, making Rutherford County a safe haven for criminals, but rather a safe haven to protect good law-abiding citizens from unconstitutional laws that infringe on one's liberty and freedoms without due process. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners hereby has reaffirmed its support of the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution and declare Rutherford County to be a Second Amendment sanctuary county. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect from and after the date of its approval before the full county commission. Mr. Chairman, I wish to make the motion to approve this resolution. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? Call for the vote.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Yes.
Commissioner Serrano?
Yes.
Commissioner Gannon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
And Chairman Reed?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I would further ask that this resolution be presented on Monday evening of next week to the steering committee so that it could be advanced on to the full commission.
I so move. Can I have a second? I yield the seat back to the chairman.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. The reason we are here tonight is because of these people that are here tonight and over 700 signatures on petitions that they have gathered across this county. And they're also gaining signatures every day for the state of Tennessee to make the entire state of Tennessee a sanctuary state for the Second Amendment. This is what it's all about, folks, the Constitution of the United States. Thank you, and any of you that would like to go on and leave, we're going to go into our regular business at this time, but we sure appreciate you being here. Remember, this will go to the steering committee Monday night, where we'll go through this same process, and then on the 13th, it has to go before the full county commission for their approval, and then it becomes the resolution of Rutherford County.
Thank you all.
Juvenile detention? You might want to wait just a few minutes till the chamber's clear. Any department head that would like to come up here and have a seat, well, you're welcome to come here up and have a seat. Okay, Ms. Lynn.
All right, tonight, excuse me, we are looking at the December report for the Juvenile Detention Center. On the first page of the report, I'd like to let you know that we have received our checks from Marion County, Robertson County, and Sumner County since this report was printed out. The other thing that I'd like to point out tonight is that I'm hoping that there may be some extra people watching, and I can give a little extra attention to one of our volunteers. He is a local military veteran who volunteers his time to come in and do some haircuts for free for all the young people that are currently detained in the Juvenile Detention Center. His name is Titus Cannon, not only does he volunteer his time to do those haircuts for free, but he also talks to the young people about entrepreneurship and some business options that they may have if they do end up having a record as an adult. So maybe we can just acknowledge that Mr. Titus Cannon has been a great volunteer to the Juvenile Detention Center. Beyond that, I have also included the Parent Connections and also the last page of that, excuse me, is some interesting information that our parents might want to take a look at if they so choose to do so when it's posted online. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions on the report? It has a lot of good information that you put there this time. On the Parent Connections, do you have a lot of parent involvement?
So those parenting classes are free. It's something that we offer to the community. One of our employees by the name of Garland Henley does that. We just started January the 16th, our latest class. I think he usually has 4 to 5 families that participate. It's not just for teens, it's for the parents to come with the teens so that together they can work through the process of learning how to communicate better and work through some of those problems so potentially they can stay out of juvenile court and detention as well.
Very good. Any questions? Do I have a motion to approve the report?
So moved.
Motion to approve. I have a second. Commissioner P. Motion was made by Commissioner Rather. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Correctional Work Center report. I feel like I'm at a tennis match. I have to go back and forth.
Go ahead and start with our January Work Center board meeting, and there's just a couple of things that I'd like to point out on that. Normally we don't spend a whole lot of time on the board meetings, but there's just a couple of things I wanted to make you all aware of. First thing is our expenditure report, which we spoke about. Everything is right on track as far as that's concerned, and we're working on, this will be our closing in on our third budget without a budget amendment. So we are very proud of that, and it just goes to show that we've used those funds down to the last penny and continue to do so, and do it the way it should be. Under other business, under E, that first paragraph there, a company out of London, England, called Raw TV is working in association with Netflix, and they're going to be coming in next week starting filming for a documentary inside our facility on an inmate that's currently incarcerated there. They've had some really good, successful documentaries in the past, and we hope that this one will be too. It's not necessarily about his incarceration, but it's about his life in general. He's a young man who's probably in his early 30s or so and has spent most of his life defrauding folks out of money, and we're talking millions of dollars there. So it's an interesting story. Just so happens he's in our facility at the time. He's out of New York, so he's not a local kid. So we'll start filming on that next week.
Before you leave that, is there any special permission you have to get from someone in the county, such as the mayor or the sheriff or someone else to do that?
We've been working with the mayor and with our legal team and with our PIO for months now on it.
So you've got approval?
We have.
Thank you.
Second thing I want to note is that if you've noticed that, and hopefully you have, that the interstates are looking a little more clean. We've been out there working diligently to make sure that we're picking up every bumper and mattress and everything else that's laying out there. And it's a hard go. We kind of have to base it around what the weather is like, and hopefully once that clears up a little bit and summer months come on and spring, we'll be able to do a lot more. And our new vans are obviously in too, so that will help a lot. Couple of paragraphs down, you'll see that we are deciding and have voted not to seek reaccreditation with the American Correctional Association. 10 years ago, when I came to the work center from the sheriff's office, we had some major problems there at the workhouse with everything from drug abuse to manufacturing of drugs within the facility, contraband, inappropriate relations with staff and inmates. So we decided the best course to take was to start looking at working on our policy and procedure, which is what we did, and we sought the American Correctional Association for help with that. And for now, it's been right at 10 years since we started. We've gone through 3 accreditations. We started out with a 95% on the first one, 99 on the second one, and we scored 100% on the last accreditation. I don't know how much further we can go from that. We had an end game in sight, and I think we've reached that. We've pulled our standard operating procedures up to where they need to be, not just where they need to be, but where they are some of the best in the state and now the nation. So I think that we can definitely look to spend that $20,000 to $30,000 every 3 years on something a little more useful than a plaque to hang on the wall at this point. We will still continue to keep our policies where they are. Policy change doesn't happen just on a whim. We have to get board approval, and we have to go through our legal team before we can do that. So those are set in place. It's like I told the mayor, we don't act on a daily basis because someone comes in every 3 years to do an audit on us. Those are things that our staff does on a daily basis. It's not something that they're rushing around because we have an audit. I'm also an ACA accreditation auditor, so I can look into those things just as much as the next guy, except I don't charge $20,000. So we have decided that we are not going to seek that reaccreditation this time. Over on the next page is our work release program, which is going great. We are full right now as far as workers are concerned, hoping to expand sometime in the near future. And then if you'll turn over, you'll see our work center report. Our population is up to where it should be. We're putting more people to work now than we have in quite some time. And then over on the last page, there is our monthly worker report with savings of approximately $113,152 for this last month using inmate labor. And that is our report.
Any questions on the report?
Mr. Chairman, just have a statement and a question. Going back to what you said earlier, I want to commend you as superintendent for raising the bar and reaching that bar, and just keep doing what you're doing, keep that bar high. The second thing is the documentary that's being done. Is any royalties available to Rutherford County through that?
No, sir.
Your department, okay. Just double checking.
Will we have the opportunity to see that?
We will. Post-production, they should be finished around sometime toward the end of the year. And those are all things that we worked out also in the inner workings and the constant communications with these folks there. A couple of the producers are out of England, like I said, and there's a couple down in Texas. And so we've been talking on a pretty regular basis.
So you're going to have a premiere at the Correctional Work Center?
I don't know about a premiere, but it will be available on Netflix, hopefully.
Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, we have had an inquiry about just last week, and I put them in touch with Deputy to the Mayor, a company that wants to come in and do some paranormal stuff here that is willing to pay us some royalties, but they want to do some checking about a ghost in the courthouse.
But now the deputy mayor always ends up in some of those shows. That's the only thing.
As long as he's got his camo on, he'll be all right.
Any other questions on the report? Commissioner P. had made the motion. Have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Gammon. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Report's approved. Thank you, sir. Good job. All right, Sheriff's report.
Okay, I'm not for sure what y'all got first because we were late on some appropriations. So, is it in order? Amendment.
You'll start with amendments?
The amendment first.
Yeah.
Will be the SCAP. We actually got the SCAP grant for 2019. It's $55,896. So we're really boosting that on up. And we got appropriations done. Limited uses on the 2019, so we're going to keep it in training and overtime. And of course the benefits that come with overtime. So that would complete the 55,896 into those line items.
That's the only amendment.
That's the only amendment for that, yes.
That's the only amendment you have?
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion to approve and second it by Commissioner Gorley. Call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Payne,
Yes.
Commissioner Serrano,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
and Chairman Green.
Yes.
I'm seeking permission to apply for a grant called the COPS Hiring Grant, and we've not seen one of these in probably 20 years as far as personnel, 25, something like that. We do have a quick deadline. We're going to apply for 15, but I know Mr. P's going to ask, so I'm going to tell you, it's a 75-25% match. And we do have to maintain this grant at 100% on the fourth year. So 15 would run approximately 1.6 million in salaries. That would be about $600,000 for us on salaries to maintain the first 3 years, and then the whole amount on the fourth year.
What is the whole amount? I mean,
It depends on how many. We're asking for 15 patrolmen.
Yeah, if we got 15, what would be the whole amount in the fourth year?
It would be almost 2 million. That's an approximate because salaries will go up, accordingly. So the fourth year, what I need to do is at least apply for it, and then I can bring y'all hard numbers and we can't get it until I come back and tell y'all about it. I mean,
I'll direct this to the sheriff. I would expect 4 years down the road from the time you get approval of this grant, we're probably going to be looking at least, if not incrementally, of adding that many officers anyway, would we not?
There's no question about that. As I had presented last year to the commission, studies that have been done, we're 35 short in patrol right now. We're approximately 55 short in detention. So one of our plans was just to incrementally add each year to try to get to that number. And of course, this would fit into that. It's out of that equation. As it is budgeted, but it's coming year, knowing that we can't have that many people at one time, we couldn't fund it. We are going to have to move in that direction.
Let me say this, I have been involved in many of those grants over the years, and with the gracious permission of this commission, they've approved them, and we have asked for at least 15 or more before. We would probably have over 120 less employees at Sheriff's Office. We had not been granted these, and they're pulled in, and you just have to be careful of these things, but the subject always comes up, or when that time comes when the grant ends, do you continue? Well, of course you will, and there's no doubt Sheriff's Office needs these people. They've done the studies, and it's just a good way to get ahead of the ground, with 4 years ahead by doing this, and you get experienced officers, and you get going. So I'm 100% for this. It's about one of the few ways we can pull in and support the Sheriff's Office with that many positions at one time.
again, this is just for permission to apply, so there's nothing that obligates us after this point.
That's what I was going to point out too. This is asking for the grant. I don't have a problem with that. I did have the question, have y'all met with the mayor and started your budget process for the year yet? Is that number of employees already been discussed?
We have not met with the mayor to discuss the number of employees. As we move in forward, it's one of the things we do before we do any activation, to meet with the mayor and go over our requests and look at this. That meeting is not taking place, we're still getting information.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Like I said, I don't have a problem applying, and then as we get down to it, we can decide, if the commission wants to spend that money or, thinks it's appropriate this year to do that. Thank you.
It would be probably about 18 months before we would get any funding regardless.
Until you don't know if you're going to get it, so.
So if you do get it, it'd be not even in this budget period, right?
It would be close, but the hiring process alone takes 2 to 3 months.
Right. Okay. Let's have a motion
Make a motion to accept.
I'll second that.
to go through the process. Have a second, Commissioner Gurley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You have the permission.
A permission to apply for the AAA traffic safety grant for $3,500. No matching funds, and we will use it in our safety enforcement program.
I like the idea of no matching funds. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And there's the report. I've been giving y'all the newer stuff, so if y'all have any questions about that.
Any questions on the report? Anyone may have? Anything there that we should be aware of that
Not right now.
I don't know, it makes me want to look a little closer when you said it like that. Any, gentlemen, anything that you have seen in the report that you have questions concerning? If not, do I have a motion to approve the report?
Second?
Commissioner Rather makes a motion to approve. Commissioner Gurley seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Report's approved. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I want to say something before the sheriff and Chief Preble get out of here. I'm going to be real brief because this involves the sheriff's office, Rutherford County Fire and Rescue, and the ambulance service. The day after Christmas, my nearly 79-year-old dad got hurt really bad. And my driveway is 4/10 of a mile from his house. And by the time I ran through the house and got some shoes on and was headed down my driveway, I could hear the sirens. And the paramedics, the ambulance, the fire department, the sheriff's office showed up. And I noticed, and I've seen this before, but I just want to say this publicly, I've seen it in other areas. Not only the care for my dad, but the care was there for my mom, who was distraught, me, and it was caring for the family as well. And how quick you got there, I have no idea. You must have been just down the road waiting on something to happen, but you got there so quick and so professional and caring. And I want to thank you on behalf of my family, me and my dad, my family, the way that whole situation was handled. And he's doing very well now. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, OSHA.
Good afternoon. I'd like to report in the month of December that we had 16 injuries requiring medical attention. You can see the breakout there in front of you. That brings the total for year to date to 268. Of that 268, 178 were OSHA recordable, with 82 being restricted days, 40 lost time days, and 56 all others. On the next page of your report, you'll see that we're pretty close to where we were last year at the end of the calendar year, with 268 to 261 last year. And on the third page of the report, what's interesting is the incurred dollars. We're about $54,000 less than what we were last year at this time. If you can look over the two previous years, we've seen in the years past, we've had one or two injuries that kind of spiked those incurred dollars. Would like to remind everybody, though, on those incurred dollars, those are estimates. So the ones for the month of December, it's an estimate. It usually takes 6 months to a year for those to settle down, close out. So sometimes some may increase, others may decrease, but hopefully it won't be too much from what we're looking at right now. So the incurred dollars for 2019 is $520,000 compared to last year at $574,000, difference of that $54,000. On the last page report, we break down where those injuries occurred. The Board of Education had 11 injuries, and the county had a total of 5. The Sheriff's Department had 3 of those, and EMS had 2. Just like to tell you that those 2 that in the EMS, those were a result of a motor vehicle accident, and when that happens, of course, that's both individuals in the ambulance at the time versus, so you got 2 for 1 in that respect as far as one accident happening to 2 individuals. That is all I have right now for the presenting of the report. If you have any questions.
Any questions anyone may have? If not, do we have a approval of the report.
I so move to approve the report.
Have an approval? And a second. Got 'em? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Report's approved.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right, Recovery Court. Commissioner Irwin.
Good evening. We're going to start with drug court first. Is this on? Yeah. Participants, 47. 25 of those were male, 22 were female. It didn't change from November. If you go down to drug of choice, the top 4 drugs of choice is heroin, methamphetamines, crack cocaine, and prescription meds. In the counseling session, 324 attended, 330 were required. That's a 98.1% attendance rate. Under NA and AA meetings, we had 194 attend, only 142 were required. That's a total of 136%. Drug screens, we had 153 negatives and 24 positives. Program fees, $15.29. There's no court costs, no community hours served, no graduates, but we did have 1 termination. Under DUI court, we had 48 participants, same as last month. The drug of choice was alcohol, followed by marijuana. Counseling sessions, 74 attended, 74 required for 100%. MRT training, we had 1 in each attendant, 1 required. That was also 100%. For AA and NA meeting totals, 169 attended, 148 were required. That's 113.5% attendance rate. Drug screen totals, 257 negatives with 6 positives. Program fees is $15.50. No court costs, no community service, no graduations, and no terminations. Under Veterans Court, we had 23 participants, 19 males and 4 females. Drug of choice was alcohol, followed by cocaine. Counseling services, we had 76 attend, only 70 were required. That's 108% attendance rate. The alcohol and narcotics meetings, we had 132 attend, 104 were required. That's 126% attendance rate. Drug screens, 107 negatives, 4 positives. Program fees, we collected $750. Court costs, $67.50. Community hours served was 85. Is that 85 or 55? I can't. 85. 0 graduations and 0 terminations. Moving on to mental health court, we had 26 participants, 16 male, 12 female. Drug of choice, again, is alcohol, followed by marijuana, with methamphetamines being a close third. Counseling sessions, we had 90 attend, 111 were required, and I believe that was a 79.5% attendance rate. MRT, we had 8 attend, 9 were required for an 88.9% attendance rate. Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, we had 66 attend, 45 were required. That boosted our attendance rate to 147%. In our drug screens, we had 43 negatives, 7 positives, no fees collected, no court costs collected, no community service, no graduations, and no terminations. And that's the end of the report for drug court. Under probation, We collected the $3,423 in combined total of fees. Electronic monitoring, these are just, we had none there. Probation and recovery services, we had $22,402 collected. Probation and service expenditures was $123,905.63 for a difference of $101,502.69. Probation and recovery services were $16,552. Failed to enter into a voluntary payment agreement, $7,769. The clerk's office collected $105,977.25. They failed to collect $122,993.65, which never paid and never set up an agreement. And that's the end of my reports.
Any questions, Commissioners? Back on your veterans, or any of those, do you see graduation numbers going to be coming up anytime soon, or?
Graduation for Veterans Court is going to be the 19th. I'll announce that in the full commissioners meeting. We really need a bigger presence than we've had in the past. We've had 2 show up, and you know, this is a big ordeal that we make probably the biggest deal out of the Veterans Court. We did have 5 graduate DUI court a few weeks ago, and that's a big total, big number. And you know, we're graduating a lot. You know, we're really watching the relapse rate, and as far as graduation rates, you know, they're graduating at a pretty good number. In Veterans Court, like I said, I'll find out the date and I'll let you know. And you know, if you've never been to one, it's amazing.
It is. It's something to see, and I think you're right. We need to get more. We need to get more there.
But this guy, when he told his story about where he started and where he ended up at, I mean, it was earth-shattering for me, and stuff.
Anything else?
Motion to approve the report.
Motion to approve. Do I have a second? Have a second. Commissioner Phillips. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
For my reclassification, I'm going to turn it over to Sonia Stevenson. She's going to take care of that.
Okay.
Good evening, Commissioners. Back during the budget process last year, so I'm going to take you back a year, what we have done in the past is if a department has a position they want to reclassify, a new position, a new type position, prior to meeting with the mayor and Lisa Nolan concerning their budgets, they would come to HR, tell me what they were interested in. We would evaluate the position, create a job description, and determine what the salary would be based on our current pay scale. During the process last year, Mr. Irvin's predecessor, Trey, and I had a conversation about a position that he needed within recovery court, and it was a clinical supervisor. And what the clinical supervisor does is not only do they do therapy, but they also supervise the other therapist, the other counselors that are underneath the therapist, and also the case managers to make sure they're looking at their reports, to make sure that they are keeping in with confidentiality, quality assurance. And as a program the size of ours, lots of those type programs have a clinical supervisor to oversee. They're also looking at the legal aspects of treatment, for lack of a better way to say it. Trey and I had discussed it some in our meeting, but I never heard the outcome in the mayor's meeting, and then Trey left in May. Well, the end of December, the employee who had been given the position, had been given the promotion, Miss Gail, came to Steve and myself and asked, you know, I've got this new title, but I've not gotten a change in pay. So we went back and reviewed. I talked to Miss Nolan, Lisa Nolan, and talked to Mayor Ketron, and he was aware of it as well. So I'm bringing it forth to you this evening to reclassify her therapist position to a clinical supervisor. She's already doing the work, and it was an oversight on our part all the way around with Trey leaving and getting a new director and everything that was going on. So I'm asking for your permission to take this forth to budget to reclassify this position.
How much more money are we talking?
She is currently at a pay grade 29. It would take her to a 32. So within the budget, and I did check with Lisa, the money is in there based on people that have left and come. It's going to take her up $5,000.
And you said it's within his budget?
It is. Lisa said there would be no new money, that the money is already within the budget that we have effective.
Will we be doing back pay?
Not according to Ms. Nolan, no. Because it wasn't technically put into the budget at that time under that classification, and she wasn't given the official title during the budget process. So this process would give her the official title. And Mr. Irvin nor myself, either one knew that Trey had already given her the title in May before he left. We didn't know. The budget wasn't even approved in May when he left, so we were unaware that she had been given that. So it would be making it official with this process.
Second.
Motion to approve and forward to budget. Call the roll.
Aye.
Commissioner Keith,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Gannon,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner Garrelly,
Yes.
Chairman Hill.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. Public Safety Director, I believe. There you are.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
So this past month, we've spent a lot of time on mitigation projects. You all have voted on, our applications and stuff, and needless to say, that's a very tedious process, even on the simple grants like the generators. But with these potential buyouts that we're looking at requesting the federal government to help us with, there's a lot of work with that. So that's consumed a lot of our time. Particularly Carrie's, she's taken the lead on that. And the preparedness side, we've been very active as well, a lot of training, and I'll talk a little bit more about our training in just a second. But there's, once again, there's a significant amount of outreach from our office with our municipal partners, fire, and all the other pieces, and trying to bring everybody to the table together. One of the highlights, and we'll talk a little bit more about it as we go further in the next coming months, is initial steps of our process to create a county-wide urban search and rescue capabilities. And that'll help us prepare more for our tornado responses that we will have again. Hopefully it won't be for a long, long time, but we know that will happen at some point, as well as our flooding as well. So we're bringing together our partners from Murfreesboro, Laverne, County Fire, and Emergency Management to try to create a coordinated program together. And that way we're sharing the resources, we're sharing the training. And actually this week we have training with all the entities working together. Mac's not here, but we're helping to take down one of the Leanna facility and shore it back up and then take it back down and back and forth. So that's been it's a good team building exercise, but also just helps on some of the basic requirements that are needed in that project. So we'll give you some more information about that for next month. I highlighted the training here at the end, as well as on the next page is sort of our 2020 training plan. And this is subject to change. I hope that we can add some more, but it's a methodical approach to increasing our capabilities in our EOC as well as out in the field operations. We have a couple of full-scale exercises that are designed with multiple agencies. One of those would be in in April, as the culmination of the active aggressor training that occurred over the last year in the county with all the law enforcement agencies and most of the fire departments and EMS as well. That'll be an actual event where people respond to. We'll have evaluators there to see what's working, where we need to make improvements, and enact that after the fact. But toward the end of the year, within our Emergency Operations Center, we're looking at a full-scale, multi-jurisdiction exercise where we will stand up our EOC, the city's EOCs, and also have an event out in the field where our incident management teams can be working and interacting and sharing the information, just like what we will be doing when we have disasters in our county. So all of our training in the EOC is geared towards methodically building toward that process. And so I think that'd be, I know that's going to help move our emergency operations preparedness forward quite a bit. And then next year we'd like to bring in Texas A&M or someone like that to really put us through the ringers in an exercise and not only teach us but help to evaluate us to see where we're at. So we're pretty aggressive with this, and I think everybody's pretty excited to have this on board and to have a plan a year in advance as far as what we're doing. One other highlight of this past month, and this just happened last week, we held our local emergency planning committee meeting, and that was the first time that's been held in over 2 years. And so that was another restart, and I've said that a lot with our programs and stuff, but that's a big piece where we bring together all of our emergency response partners as well as industry throughout the county, and right now we're looking at that twice a year, so we'll have the next one of those in June. But we had about 50 people at the one last week, so that was encouraging for the first restart. Our email lists were quite old, and so we got a bunch of bounce backs and stuff like that, but we're able to kind of build off of what we had in there. So that was very, very positive and bringing everyone together. So that's another one of those things to really help tie our communities together and be more prepared. On the radio system, Peter is way in the back. So we've got kind of updates as far as what occurred over the past month with, he's had a ton of meetings as well with our partners and as well as with Motorola and the contractors and stuff, both out in the field and in within our offices and stuff. We've had some tower outages with the Kirkland Tower, and that's been up and down this past month quite a bit, or not quite a bit, but more than we would care for, obviously. And that's just one of those things that we know is part of the solution that you've invested in. We'll be able to get past that soon. On the next 2 pages of that, I put on kind of our project lists from Motorola, and this is from earlier in the month, so there's probably some of this information has changed even since then, but they generally give us we're on calls every 2 weeks with the project team to make sure everything is online, and so if you have any questions with that, I'll defer to Mr. Rogers, different Mr. Rogers, of course. But as far as that's the report on the Emergency Management Office.
Is that also the radio system report?
That would be the radio system.
That'd be the radio system report that I'm showing here? Okay.
Yes, Chairman.
I would like to comment on the LEPC meeting. I attended that meeting, and there was a very good turnout and a very good mix of municipal, county, state, and industry, business types of individuals. I think everyone on this committee will be receiving an invitation to the next one, and I would urge you, if you have the time in your schedule, to attend. It's a good place for everyone to get together, see what everyone's doing and what needs to be addressed within the community as a whole. And so it's something that the ball had been dropped on for the last couple of years, and so it's back moving. And the EOC room was packed, I would say. It was fully. I don't think you could have gotten too many more people in there, so it may be a different venue than the EOC next time, if there's the attendance. Glad to see that back moving, and compliment the director on moving forward with that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mayor, did you? Okay. All right, I guess I'm looking for a motion to approve the report.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Phillips, do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Has there been a date for that second meeting?
June 25th, we're working on a venue because we know if we get anybody extra, the fire marshal will make us clear the room. So we're going to work on another site, and that we'll have that out soon, so that way you can get on everybody's agenda. But we'd love for y'all to come to that if you can. And any of our training that we have, just feel free to reach out to our office, make sure it's still on track. Sometimes we have to shift, something a week or a month or something like that based upon other stuff that comes up. But you guys are always welcome to stop by at any point and see what's going on.
I believe you have a budget amendment.
So we need to move $6,000 into rentals from the communications equipment, and this is for the Kirkland Tower rent for the remainder of this year. Is that correct, Peter? 3 more months. And that's just anticipation, a carryover until the new system will be able to take the place of that. So.
Internal within your department?
Yes, it's all, there's no additional funds. It's just from one line item to another.
Approved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to approve. Do you have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Shorino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gannon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrelli?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one additional question. It's regarding the radio system. The Murfreesboro Shallow site, where do they stand on that? Because that's a critical site, especially for Commissioner Pease area out to the east of Murfreesboro. Do we have any update on that?
Here, yep. From understand, part of that is on funding. Motorola submitted their project cost to that. They have their interlocal agreement that's been completed, from what I understand, with CUD. So a lot of it right now is just getting the funding moved over for that purchase.
Yeah, my concern is that we're not going to have to come back and fund that as a county, from the county standpoint, at, somewhere a few months down the road. They are on board with going ahead and completing the 5th site.
Yes, sir, that is correct. We would not be responsible for that whatsoever.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, sir. You also have their dispatch locate agreement. We have removed that one from the agenda. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm asking if you would, with your indulgence, to allow that to be bumped off the agenda tonight. There's some still tweaking between the city and mainly on our part. I want to make sure, I think the city is ready to move forward on that. Their attorney called Nick and wanted to know where we were. The mayor called me last week, and I talked to Mark at the MLK breakfast on Mark Fulks, the chief. Want to know what the problem was. Well, I had referred it, Nick was ready to send it to their attorney to execute. I referred it to Sonia. She had some suggestions as far as personnel is concerned. This is the first time we've ever done this, and we want to make sure that we get it right. Also, when I was reviewing the agreement, I didn't find where, since we're going to be dispatching Murfreesboro Fire and Rescue, I want to make sure that our insurance covered any liabilities from that standpoint. And David said I had Ed contact David, our broker in Brentwood, and he said that we would be covered, but we need the language in the MOU or the interagency agreement. So we're still tweaking on that, and I asked Rachel to set up a meeting probably next week between the leadership of the city and the county to make sure that we're all on the same page. We all understand that this is a first-time move, and it is co-locating our dispatch with their dispatch. Is not merging. It's not joining theirs. I want to make sure that we have that clear understanding before we go in. I don't want to come back 3 months from now and going, hey, it didn't work because we didn't have that clear understanding about who's in charge. So we'll have that meeting set up, and we'll bring it back to the next Public Works meeting, or Public Safety meeting, excuse me. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready for fire and rescue. Chief?
Good evening. The first sheet you'll see is the monthly report for December of 2019. We had 7 structure fires, 5 vehicle fires. We ran 285 medical calls. We had a total of 56 MVAs, 29 with injuries, 27 without. We had 5 extrications. Let's see, it was 5 extrications. And we also had a water rescue for a total of 563 calls. For the entire year from January to December of 2019, Rutherford County Fire Rescue ran 77 structure fires, 75 vehicle fires. We had 3,914 medical calls. We had 399 MVAs with injuries, 394 MVAs without injuries, for a total of 793 MVAs. The third sheet shows the countywide response with us and the volunteers. For a total of the year, we had 125 structure fires, 197 brush fires, 137 illegal burns, and a lot of that was during the drought we experienced. We had 123 vehicle fires, 13 swift water rescues, and we had 1,546 MVAs, 1,500 MVAs. 29 of those were extrications, and for a grand total of 8,540 calls countywide. The next sheet is the damaged residential structures that we turn into codes department. The next sheet is our December investigation report. We did have 1 fatality. The next sheet shows the overall year. Since we actually were, y'all did the resolution to grant police powers to our fire investigators, which when it took effect of July 1st of not last year, our fire investigators have made 3 arrests. And then that's the kind of a rundown of all the ones they did investigate and determinations they made. Next one is we did 25 get alarmed installations for the month of December. And for the year, we had 149 Tennessee Get Alarm installations. And then for the grant we received, we installed 761 smoke detectors. And we still have plenty of those to give away. Anybody need a smoke detector, just please contact us, and we'll be more than happy to come out and install it. And that completes my report.
Any questions on the report? Tell you, as I look at this for the year, the total number of MVAs, that just is amazing of that number that we have out there. That's a lot of trips up and down the road.
A lot of vehicles in Rutherford County. If you drive through the county and try to get anywhere anymore, it used to take 10 minutes, takes you 30 now. We do have 3 full-time stations now. Every one of those stations does provide rescue. We have actually have 4 rescues. We got 2 rescue trucks running out of Sort, and then we have 1 out of 52 at Walt Hill and 51 at Barfield. Stay pretty busy.
And I was looking at this number, and you had, what, 477 come out of Amable, and then 103 out of Kittrell. Just those. And then you had lesser numbers out of the other volunteers. Just amazing the number of these that are answered.
Look at the report too. Of course, our call volume's gone up, but it's also the volunteers stay pretty busy too.
Yeah. Okay, if there are no questions, I look for a motion to approve the report.
So move.
Motion to approve, second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, ambulance report. Didn't mean to divide y'all.
Brought her, number 2. Changed, I've added some things to the report that you're probably not used to, but I wanted you to see the second one. Transfers that the 911 trucks are doing the hospital, so that's going to be added on each month to the report. So the number of 911 calls, we had 3,037. The number of inter-facilities, which is the transfers I was just talking about, was 67, and we had a total of 3,104 calls for the month of December. Our average response time, we kept it at 6.5. The number of DOAs for the month were 65. State payments we received on reporting deaths was $1,625. Number of autopsies for the month were 19. And we've paid $35,625 for those. Year to date on autopsies, we've had 128, and we've paid $240,000 even so far with autopsies. Our autopsies were down for the month of November and December, and that's good. And so my projections, you know, initially, I think I told you several months ago, I was expecting around 600,000. We may be hitting around 500,000 if it stays at this. We down to the non-emergency side, we had a total of 340. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me get to the billing. I'm sorry. We billed $1,504,420. We've collected $745,250. Year-to-date collections is $4,459,626. Projected collections are at $8,919,252. We got an 84% collection rate. Insurance write-offs were $617,966, and other write-offs were $22,001. Moving over to the non-emergency side was 349 calls. Calls declined were 55. Total bill was $247,106. Total collected is $89,383. Year to date is $431,755. Projected collections are at $863,510, 124% collection rate. Insurance write-off were $170,001, and other write-offs were $3,555. And I had 6 thank you notes, one from Vandy, one from me personally to my honor guard and dispatch when Bedford County lost one of their members, and we covered their county for them, and 4 others from other people.
Any questions, Commissioners? I have a motion to approve the report.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Chairman, before we
approved.
get into the amendments, I just want to publicly thank a couple people. I went around the stations and I'll be honest with you, there's been some neglect over the years at some of the stations, and I wasn't pleased with. And painting and these couple of windows and doors replaced and stuff like that. So I reached out to Ben Mankin, and he's loaned me his painter, and we've got him working, and he's doing a good job. And I just wanted to thank Ben Mankin for lending him. I didn't want to contract it out when we have people right here in our own county. And I've actually got people in my department that's very talented in construction and stuff like that, so we're using within. And it saved us a tremendous amount of money doing that. The first station, I'm actually started on 2, our Salem Road station, doing a lot of painting there, and in Laverne, we're doing a lot. And I wanted to thank Chief Chris Clark in Laverne for letting my paramedics stay at one of the fire halls while we're doing some remodeling basically at the Laverne station. And I just wanted to publicly thank them. That's worked out well for us. They're actually going to start staying there tomorrow. And also, I've offered to all of the department heads and for members of their staff, if anybody wanted to learn CPR and learn how to use an AED. I've gotten a good response on that, and we're going to start that at around the 1st of the month for all of these departments. So I hope I didn't overload myself on that. It was a pretty big response, and a lot of people work in this county. So, but we'll make it work.
I want to commend your group. Myself and some other commissioners attended y'all's first training with the scanners the other day, and that's quite impressive. I know Commissioner Shanto and Commissioner P. We were out there. I don't know who else happened to drop in that afternoon to see how those things operate. And they hung around, but when y'all started taking needles out and sticking each other, that's when I left. I just wasn't.
That's very good.
I'm going to sit there and watch that. I mean, I'm not into that, and I've had enough myself. So, but it is, for those of you that haven't seen that, it's just something else that these little, y'all saw them when they presented them here that night, but to see them in operation and to see how our individuals, you always had like a duck takes the water. they jumped on that real quick, learning how to do that and how you can take those and just instantly go in there and you can see the heart operating, and they were showing us different parts of the heart. Now, they told me that. I wouldn't have known. I mean, they could have told me anything, but to see it on a screen no bigger than this, that they will be carrying within their units, and that they can transport this or send it back to the hospital. And for somebody that's having problems there, they'll know, you don't necessarily have to just take them right straight to the emergency room. You can get them right there with a place already at the hospital to take care of them. And simply amazing what I thought. And I don't know if these other commissioners had anything, but Commissioner P there, I thought he was going to learn how to do it there. He was getting really involved with it.
I'm so glad you're not doing
With those next week. They're actually going to be on the
Going
trucks, and had to get the hospitals on board, so we can, but all that's about lined up and we're ready to.
Great. I believe you have an amendment?
Yes, sir. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought Lisa Nolan was going to come and do this because from what I understand, when we went to the payroll timekeeping system and we had to move some overtime and work for her, I don't think like Social Security and other withholdings were included in that. And I'll be honest with you, from 28 years of marriage, keep happy the one that controls the money, and Lisa is that, and this is going to make her happy, and so I agree with it. And honestly, that's the only way I know how to explain it.
Okay.
Maybe do the other amendment.
Do we have that amendment?
Separate. There's two amendments. One's
Okay,
within our
it's
report
separate,
and one's
okay.
without, separate.
It's under the report. Okay, I got you. Yeah, I got it. We're ready. Is anybody going to explain it, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, go.
She was saying that you needed to vote on the other one, so I was waiting on that, but
You
I
want us
can
to take the other one first?
I can explain this one, it's fine.
Let's go ahead with this.
Okay.
Let's get through with the hard one first, and then we'll.
Mine's the easy one, actually. We received 3 donations, and those were deposited into our revenue, and we're asking to just move it into the 499 donations so that we can go ahead and use that money that was donated from the 3 companies.
So that's the one that's on page 11 of our report.
That's the $800.
That's
Okay.
that's the one I had.
$800, yeah, that's the one.
That's one I had up first. Yeah. Okay, all those, any questions on that?
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Call the roll. James Farino.
Commissioner Phillips? Aye. Commissioner P? Yes. Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gannon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes. Okay. Now you have another one, is that right? That's it? All righty.
We're not taking up the second one that's on our iPads?
I've got 2.
One, $40,000 plus,
Yeah.
it says amendment to correct previous amendments with the,
That was the one that Carl explained. Mine was the donation,
Yeah, hers was the donation. This is the one that Carl, and I thought he was going to explain that more.
no one's explained it to us.
It was the Make Lisa Happy amendment, I think, is,
And that was it? Just to make,
Yeah.
okay? Okay. No, we hadn't approved that one yet.
Yeah.
No. I think we got a question on it.
Yes, I wish this had been two amendments, because you're doing, it appears to me you're doing two things. One is correcting some benefits attachments that were left off otherwise when we redid the payroll thing. And the other is transferring, which is a totally separate item to me, is transferring $40,000 from part-time personnel to convalescent, which is a total different matter. But it's all lumped in here into one. We have another item on here that I think maybe ought to be heard before we vote on that, and that's about, has to do with convalescent services and so on. Or I'd like a little explanation as to why we're taking $40,000 from part-time and putting it into convalescent.
Ms. Stevens?
Basically, what they're doing is they're taking it from the, they got different funds for each categorization. So you have your transport, your convalescent, all of those. And so it's moving it from the one area where it's the ambulance and the emergency services into the convalescence care. And so they're decreasing the part-time line items and the benefits associated with that $40,000, and they're moving it into the part-time convalescent. So you're taking it from the emergency services to the convalescence, and you're offsetting it like that with all the benefits. So it's the same $40,000. It's just transferring it from one division of the ambulance service operations to the other.
Had this already been approved, or we're just doing this tonight?
You're doing this tonight.
That's what I'm saying. We haven't really.
It's no new money. It's just trade. It wasn't classified in the correct buckets, what Lisa always calls them. It wasn't put, the 40,000 was in the wrong, it was in the part-time for emergency medical services, and it was supposed to be in the part-time for the convalescence. And so all it's doing is it's taking the same exact dollars and the benefits associated with that and moving it from the emergency medical services to the convalescence side of the budget.
Or the Social Security?
All the benefits associated with it.
I'm kind of like Carl. I think what this is Lisa's attempt to clean up an accounting error where we've got the line items crossed where they shouldn't be.
Okay.
Can you use Mike? Since we're on TV.
Huh?
Since we're on
okay.
TV, we need a mic.
She just trying to correct and clean up what she had moved when we used to have it all separated into individual things, and now with the timekeeping, it's all been kind of moved into one. I think 187 is where it's actually all moving, is my understanding. And so they're trying to.
Our finance director?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second. And a second. Mr. Phillips. Call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips? Commissioner Fee? Yes. Commissioner Sharita?
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Chair Farid?
Yes. All right. I believe we got all your amendments and got your your report approved, right? All right. We have had a request to have the committee addressed. Mr. Barry Cameron. Mr. Cameron?
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank the committee for allowing me some time this evening to come here. And thank you, Chairman Reed, for making this happen. I have prepared a statement because, honestly, I get sidetracked real easy if I just try to talk from or shoot from the hip. So, my name is Barry Cameron, and I'm a 30-year retiree of Rutherford County EMS. So I've been around the county for a few years. I now own Regional Ambulance Service. I retired from the county in 2015. In 2011, my wife Sherry and I took over ownership of Regional Ambulance Service from Mike Hiltz, who was himself retiring. Regional had opened in '87 as one of only 2 services at that time. Over the years, Regional has always operated in other counties in addition to Rutherford. However, Rutherford has always been our home base. This has always been our home office. Because of that, all of our vehicles are registered here. All maintenance and repairs are done here. State law allows us to keep all of our assets on the Rutherford County personal property tax rolls instead of claiming them in the county in which they're serviced. So even though a significant portion of our business is currently in Davidson and Wilson counties, we pay all of our tax dollars to Rutherford. Now, the reason I'm here today is to express my concerns surrounding an ongoing implementation of taxpayer-funded convalescent ambulance service. On numerous occasions, I've voiced my concerns with members of the administration at the ambulance service, and I've heard this committee ask about complaints coming from private services operating in this area. All along, I hope that these concerns would have been relayed to this committee by these administrators instead of having to come to you directly. But there's 3 basic points I'd like to make tonight. And first, the county-funded convalescent service is having an adverse effect on all private enterprise companies that operate in Rutherford County. And it's threatening their continued existence. Currently, there's 7 such companies that operate here. The current ambulance report that you just saw shows in December they made 349 convalescent calls. Those aren't new calls that come from growth in this county. The total volume of non-emergency convalescent calls doesn't increase that rapidly. So simply put, these are calls that all private companies used to run. Regional's down 50 or more a month. ASM's down 30 or more. MedStat's down 30 or more. That's over 100 of them right there. All the companies that I've spoken to over the past few weeks say that their monthly call volume has dropped significantly over the past year. One such company, locally owned, has virtually dropped servicing Rutherford County completely because he says he's tired of fighting the county for runs. He's moved his resources to another county. One of the largest companies in the mid-state, First Call, tells me that their discharges out of St. Thomas Rutherford have virtually dried up. They're not doing any. That's where those 349 calls came from last month. Not just the hospital, but all facilities throughout the county that we're not able to service, or we're not servicing the way we were a year and a half ago. Secondly, but most importantly, but wouldn't have made any sense if I'd have said it first, it's affecting our people. Our employees are taxpayers too. They're being made to feel that their jobs may be in jeopardy as a result of the county involvement in the marketplace. I have employees with 5, 10, 15 years working at Regional. My wife Sherry's been with Regional for over 30 years, having worked for the previous owners. Mike Craig at ASM expressed to me the same sentiment about his employees. These are real faces behind these concerns. Finally, as a taxpayer and not as a businessman, I don't want my tax dollars supporting a program to satisfy a need that was already being filled by a private sector business in an attempt to make a profit. Expenses for this program are not being fully accounted for, and the profitability has already been questioned by some on the committee. So with that, if you've got any questions, or really the questions.
Is the requirements of the paramedics, is it equal to the EMTs? I mean, has that changed in some way as far as running an ambulance?
Requirements of the paramedics.
I'm at the convalescent. I think convalescents only have EMTs. Is that?
Convalescents, we do have some paramedics on our trucks, but we run BLS trucks. We have no ALS capability on our trucks. Some of the other private services, most of the other private services do. We choose to operate it as strictly a BLS convalescent service. And as such, we are only required to have EMTs or AEMTs on the trucks. The paramedic on there only comes into play if you're operating an ALS vehicle.
Right.
Else? Commissioner Rather?
I guess this may be a question or concern. There's 300 and some odd calls a month that we're running convalescent services for. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Is
That's
that
what the report shows.
what
That
we
these
just
are all
saw?
BLS convalescent calls.
I'm concerned why the folks that, your customers, why did they all of a sudden start using somebody else? I mean, I'm sure you serviced several facilities for many, many years. Why would they all of
And
a
we still
sudden
do.
leave?
And
Why?
we still do. We see all the facilities that we've always seen.
Okay.
We just don't see them as
But the numbers are
much.
going down.
The numbers are going down.
What, do you know why those numbers are going down? Why, I don't understand why a facility would be using you or Mike Craig's company or anybody else's, and all of a sudden say, we're gonna start sending this many to Rutherford County and this many, we'll,
Having worked for the county ambulance service for 30 years, having been a supervisor for over 10 of those years, it's easy to see why people in the facilities would choose to call Rutherford County EMS as opposed to calling a private service.
And that is?
Because they've got a good product, but they've got a good 911 emergency product.
okay. That,
And now we're talking about we're talking about two different things. We're talking about a 911 service that provides exceptional care. And if we get that from them every time we dial 911, why wouldn't we call them to make this hospital discharge? Or why wouldn't we call them to make this patient into the hospital from the nursing home or such? It's an easy product to sell. And to me, it's an unfair competitive advantage. They've done something that over the years, from regional standpoint, they've faced competition over the years and have always been able to shed it without any problem. We've had the big box companies come into Rutherford County and try to take over, and they're here for a little while and they're gone because they can't compete with a homegrown, locally owned company. That's not been a problem in recent years with the big box companies that are in here. I call them big box companies, but the corporate owned, the big hospital-based or hospital-owned companies, or the ones that operate regionally or nationally. But it's easy for me to see why it's easy to win them over. They've got an unfair competitive advantage.
okay. The only other question I had, and I want to make sure I understood this statement correctly, you question the accuracy of the numbers presented to this committee.
It's hard for me to see how the receivables and the number of calls run can exceed a mark of $250 if we're talking strictly convalescent calls. Because convalescent calls, BLS calls only reimburse at around $200. And if you're making a high number of non-pay calls and a high number of TennCare calls that pay at a much lower reimbursement rate, then it would be extremely hard to get average numbers north of $250.
Thank you.
Okay, are there other questions?
Do these calls, convalescent calls, do they go out of county at times?
At times. Not usually.
Do we keep up with how many times the calls go out of county from the convalescent cause?
I think they've added that, you know, as far as hospital-to-hospital transfers. I think I understood they just added that to their report.
What?
I think it's on.
Now,
I didn't see it. I need to look it up and see.
and I believe Brian had told me that they're doing some convalescent doctors visit runs out of county too.
But you're talking about mostly the St. Thomas
But
calls,
those-
I believe, right, or hospital calls?
I'm sorry?
Are you talking about mostly loss in the actual hospital calls?
Most of what we're losing are right here in the county, yes. I'm not talking about, because those calls are few and far between. There's not that much call for out-of-county convalescent transports.
What's the average fee for transport?
Sorry?
What's the average fee? I'm sorry.
Average fee is about $200. A little more, a little less. I mean, that's the Medicare allowable. That's not what's billed.
Right.
But that's the Medicare
You have a
allowable.
retirement plan,
Do we?
Yeah.
We do offer a simple IRA to our.
insurance?
With employee, no, we don't have insurance. Historically, that's one of the ways that private ambulance services were able to turn a profit is with lower cost in their vehicles, a lot of part-time employees that don't require insurance, and just lowering the cost and large volume. And without the volume,
You normally have two EMTs on a truck that
two
moves around?
EMTs. And we do have some part-time people that work, that are also county full-time employees that work part-time.
Yeah, are you gas or diesel?
Gas.
So if you make a run from here to Nashville, what's your gas cost on that on return, to and fro? On
Nashville,
an
that's
ambulance?
That's about 70 miles, so you're talking maybe four gallons of gas.
Takes a lot out of that 250, don't it?
It doesn't take long.
Okay, I have no more questions.
Okay, Mr. Cameron, we appreciate you coming tonight. We'll take what you have given us. We'll
Thank you
go from
again for your
there,
time.
And I suggest, commissioners
Mr.
talk
Chair-
to our department, and we'll move.
Mr.
from
Chairman, I do not have a question for you. I'd like to ask the director a question. Actually, I'd like to make a request, because what I don't have is enough information to make a determination on where, when we started this thing a year and a half ago, we said we'd continually take a look at it. And I guess what I don't want to happen, I don't want to compete in an aggressive manner, taking away business from private businesses. I really don't think so, because they're paying taxes into Rutherford County. I'd like to see more information on what we're paying in the terms of the personnel we're using. In other words, are they working additional time and drawing overtime? Or are they drawing separate fixed rate pay scale as a convalescent EMT? In other words, what's our actual cost? The cost basis. Do we have an undue advantage? We just heard that most of the private companies are not paying benefits. So I would assume that those people that are full-time employees that are working overtime or part-time on the PRN on the convalescent are maybe still drawing benefit. Is that being added to their total pay and they're continuing to draw benefits, retirement, et cetera? Those are costs to the county that we're not directly seeing. Those are indirect costs to the county. So what I would like to see, let's just say in the next 60 days, say at the March meeting, let's give you time to actually dig into it and do a thorough analysis of what our actual costs are. Is that a reasonable request?
Customer service issue going on here too, and I'm not saying that it's normal for a customer, in this case it's a person who's requesting convalescent services, to wait 30 minutes for you and an hour for somebody else. To me, it's also a customer service issue, and I'd like some input on that too. If customer service is an issue, and we can respond faster than someone else, I'd call them too. So I think it has to be a customer service issue that's going on there too. If a private contractor could not get to the hospital to carry someone home from the hospital, and they're going to have to wait for hours, I'd call you too. So I think customer service has to be considered in this, and if the county's providing a higher rate of preferred customer service, somehow we have to be able to evaluate that as well, I think. So if you could give us information on that, I think it would clear up some of those questions for me. There has to be a reason that they're calling you, and not just for an unfair competitive edge. But if they were to call one of those homes and they say, I can't be there for 5 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, and they call you and you can be there in 10 minutes, I'd call you. So there has to be something there in my mind, other than just a, quote, competitive edge.
Case, appreciate it. All right, I think we're ready for pause.
Good evening. For the month of December, we had 477 animals come into the shelter. You can see at the breakdown there of the jurisdictions. We had 503 animals that left the shelter. You can see the breakdown of adoption, reclaim, and euthanasia. The biggest thing that I like to focus your attention on is the live release rate. For dogs, for the month of December, we had 88.4% of our dogs live release rate, 95.8% for cats, and a 90.5% overall. We're used to seeing that number above 90% for our dogs. We did have a court case where we had to intake 21 deceased animals, which is unusual. So those went out through disposal, so they had to be accounted for there. So kind of need an asterisk, I guess, a little bit by that figure. If you don't include those disposals, our live release rate for dogs was 93.7%, putting it back to where it normally is. We had 2,428 people visit the shelter looking for a lost or new pet, and 1,807 calls or voicemails for the month. We have also been putting a better emphasis with our staff. We did hire a part-time person to come cover in the morning on the phones, and we've been placing an emphasis on our live call, answering calls live versus voicemails. I'm keeping up with those statistics and really have been putting an emphasis on those two employees to make sure they're picking that phone up live whenever possible. For our calls, we had 1,650 calls for the month, and you can see the breakdown there of us traveling 12,040 miles. Year to date, with 6 months under our belt, we have taken in 3,727 animals. Our live release rate for that 6 months was 90.4%. 15,530 people in the shelter, and 13,368 calls and voicemails. We handled 11,428 calls and traveled 80,207 miles. Our rabies and bite exposure report, that goes by calendar year versus fiscal year. So in December, we had 21 total bites. One of those was tested. It came back as negative. We had 6 other exposures. One of those tested came back as negative as well. So we finished the year with 403 bites, 103 other exposures, and 2 animals that tested positive in the county last year for rabies. That's my report.
Any questions on the report? Have a motion to approve? Commissioner Rather, second. Commissioner Gorley. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I believe you have a...
I do have a budget amendment this evening. You've seen this several times over the last couple of years due to the vacancy and not being able to fill the second full-time veterinary position. This is to move money within our budget to be able to cover the cost of the contract vets to come in and help with surgeries.
Motion approved. Do you have a second?
Second.
Several seconds. Call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Yes.
Commissioner Sharino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Any other business? If not, we're adjourned.
All right.